know what the full truth is, but I know we're being lied to. And the American people know that also. And so, look, the time for disclosure is now. Disclosure today, disclosure tomorrow.
A call to action answered. Just days after demand for disclosure on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, a third batch of UFO files released. The 72 files unsealed Friday. They're giving you insight into the government's investigation into the extraterrestrial. Take a look at this. This is from an eyewitness. It captured the video with an iPhone 14 Pro Max last July. Do you see those two bright orbs? They appear to move in tandem in the northeast sky. Let's look at another one. This one's also from the northeast. It shows a plasma-like orb hovering above a pond. This one was also from an iPhone. It was also authenticated by the government. On top of this, there's also new audio from a 1962 interview between journalist Walter Cronkite and astronaut Gordon Cooper, where he claims a large number of, quote, exceptionally well-qualified people, end quote, have seen objects without a logical explanation. Let's take a quick listen to that.
But I think that there are so many possibilities, so many thousands of possibilities of other planets out somewhere in the universe that would have a livable atmosphere that I would hate to rule out the possibility that maybe there are people or some type of human life on some of these. And if this is the case, then it's not too unfeasible to think that perhaps some of these objects might have been something of this type.
So fascinating. For more, I'm now joined by UFO expert Joshua Golembeski, guest host of Comic Disclosure, who was at that Capitol Hill presser just days ago. So great to see you here. Thanks for coming on, Joshua. So what are your thoughts on this third batch of UFO files? Actual disclosure or just a drip feed of a mystery that keeps people wondering?
I guess more of the latter, more of a drip feed coming in. If you're in the UFO community like I am, you're a little disappointed about this, but don't get me wrong, this is significant because they're painting a very clear picture of what's been going on for at least 80 years. While these documents may seem dry, these videos may seem inconclusive, there's little gems in there that are painting a picture. For example, there's one document from the CIA that got declassified, number 19, that I urge everybody to read. It's actually an assessment from the Australian DOD that talks about how the US government, the military, had been hiding this phenomenon for a long time. Project Blue Book, that famous UFO program, was basically set up to make the public think it was all ridiculous. But behind the scenes, the U.S. government was taking it very seriously, and not just taking it seriously, there was crash retrieval operations where they were attempting to reverse engineer exotic technology. Specifically in these documents, they mentioned anti-gravitic propulsion systems. You know, Hannah, this is something that's so extraordinary because if we were trying to reverse engineer these technologies 50 years ago, where are we today? What type of world-changing technologies are being hidden from the public? I want to know the answers.
I want to know the answers. Okay, so you mentioned classified document 19 that now the public can read. Is there any other specific video or files that stand out to you that we should definitely check out?
Yeah, definitely the videos. There's one thing they're trying to show us, and this connects to the presser, is this orb phenomenon. I think you used the word plasmoid. That word in particular is interesting. They're showing us a lot of these lights in the skies, these red orbs floating by civilians and the military. We have these older documents talking about green fireballs, different color orbs described as plasmoids. Now, that is very significant to me because this week I was at the presser on Capitol Hill, and David Grush mentioned two different types of NHI, non-human intelligence, that are visiting us. One of them he called plasmoid sentient beings. And in these files, we have videos and documents explicitly saying and describing these orb-like intelligences. And what's really interesting about it, Hannah, is that a lot of them seem to be taking place over nuclear facilities. This is well documented in ufology today, but these documents back it up, and I'm really excited about it because there's a clear connection between us in the late 40s detonating nuclear bombs and this phenomenon showing up.
I have to say, while we want more, I do appreciate the transparency we're getting from the government. This is so fascinating. I have a little bit of time left. I want to ask you about Steven Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure Day. The movie's about an alien cover-up within the government. Are people just craving aliens right now? What's going on? Do you think we're about to see a new wave of alien media, especially with all these documents and videos that we're seeing come out of the government. I have about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, absolutely. The movie doesn't seem like a coincidence, but it may be. And the movie paints a very clear picture that these documents back up, that there's a long-running government cover-up. We've been reverse engineering technology, and it seems like this is all part of disclosure to help the public grapple with what's going on. The basics are in the movie. They talk about a certain type of race of beings. I'm not going to give any spoilers. And they also talk about the government cover-up. And the most important part for me and why I work at Gaia is because of the consciousness connection and what it does to people. A simple UFO sighting will change someone's life forever. Regular contact can lead to basically enlightenment. This was studied by Dr. John Mack at the University of Harvard.
All right, Joshua Golembeski, I really appreciate your time. Again, there's so much fascination around these batch of files being released and the alien phenomena itself. Thank you so much for your time.
The White House has stood up a new science body to study UFOs, and it put an astrophysicist at the head of it. The scientists say he was asked over the past week to build and lead a new UAP Science Advisory Council requested by the White House, AARO, the ODNI, which is the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, and the rest of the intelligence community. The announcement came on the same day the Pentagon released the third batch of declassified UFO files. The UFO file release spans decades, from old vault recordings to sightings from last year. One piece that's getting a lot of attention is the audio from a 1972 NASA briefing. Here it is.
I've looked at the gravity profile, and it doesn't seem to correlate at all. I can't see any scientific justification for connecting the two results. Could be an alien starbase or something.
So, from what we've been told, the new scientific council is the part that is moving this forward. Avi Loeb chairs a team of about a dozen scientists, and they are people to test physical samples in the lab, people to run the raw data through artificial intelligence tools, and people who study why witnesses report what they report. In other words, you have hardware, numbers, and human perception, really all on the same panel. And the mandate is to collect and test higher quality data, not to re-argue old cases that couldn't be verified then. And even to retired Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet is part of the council, and he confirmed his own appointment in a separate post online. Gallaudet is an oceanographer and a former acting head of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and he has pushed for years to study objects that move between air and water, and what the field calls transmedium activity. His presence signals the council is not only looking up, it's also looking at the oceans too, which is the part of this story that gets the least attention and really just might be something that people just genuinely avoid. But Loeb made the broader point just yesterday, stating that the real files are stranger than any movie, really just a nod to Steven Spielberg's releasing his film Disclosure Day on the exact same day the files were released and the council was mentioned. Coincidence? Certain scientists alone have spent more than a year analyzing claimed UAP material, including the samples known as ARTS parts tied to a 1996 case. The mandate is to collect and test higher quality data. The document at the center of the release is dated June 5th, 2026, signed by the current AARO director John Koslowski. It covers 2 days in October of 2023, the western U.S. near a sensitive national security site. 6 federal agents reported an orange orb that appeared for a second or two and then released several smaller red orbs and then just vanished. In one account, a red orb held still over a ridgeline for hours, but here is what Avi stated on the account of Fox News.
Law enforcement officials noticed orbs in the sky that behave in very strange ways. For example, a mother orb gives birth to baby orbs that come out of it, smaller ones. And they say that they looked carefully at all the data and they cannot explain 40% of the phenomena that were witnessed.
Flight logs show military flares in the area, and radar accounts for about 60% of what was reported. The other 40% is filed as unrecognized technology, which is currently pending. So the same batch holds more than just orbs, obviously. There is a 2008 sighting over Harare Airport in Zimbabwe, caught on both radar and optical, with beams described as coming off the object. Loeb places the stakes at two options: either foreign drones flying over restricted American sites that no one can identify, or objects that were not built by anyone on Earth. Which one do you think it is? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Is after looking into that, if we end up concluding it's not human-made from some extraterrestrial origin, that would be the biggest discovery ever made by humanity.
The UAP Disclosure Act is still in motion, and it matters because it would force records into the open by law instead of leaving it to whoever happens to be in office, setting up an independent board to review and release government files on its own timeline. And that is the difference between a favor and a rule. The files coming out right now are coming out because the current administration choose to release them, which means a future administration could just as easily choose to stop. The Disclosure Act would take that decision out of any of one president's hands. Some assumed the bill was no longer needed now that the files are dropping by order, but Eric Burleson said the exact opposite, that his caucus is moving to attach it to the annual defense bill right now, which they have for quite a few years, and they're not stopping to push it anytime soon. Here's what was mentioned on Ask a Poll.
UAPDA, is that still needed or not at this point?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to keep trying to get that. In fact, we're working on it right now, trying to get that on the bill.
Yeah, are you talking with rounds?
It'll probably happen in the committee, in the rules process.
Yeah.
So that path means the bill may never get a clean floor vote on its own. It would be folded into the larger defense package through the Rules Committee and the panel that decides which amendments get considered. The Speaker controls that committee. So the version written into law is being settled mostly out of public view, and it also failed to make it into the House Armed Services version of the bill, which is why the caucus is now working the amendment to this route instead. The witness news is what insiders are focused on. David Grush said he has personally seen photographic evidence of a covered craft, and he named specific shapes: lens-shaped discs, crescent forms, flattened sunfish, egg-shaped, and boomerangs. He said he expects this administration to release them. On Anomalous Coalition stream, Chris Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, stated this.
I've also, like Dave, heard from some senior administration officials that they are very serious and under serious pressure from the White House to get out literally as much as possible. So I'm very hopeful that along with Dave, that these future releases will continue and hopefully improve.
So this is a gap in what's come out thus far. The CIA and the Department of Energy have been almost absent from the first release. On the same session, Mellon really explained the split here. The DOE classifies under its own law passed by Congress, so it cannot simply be ordered to ignore those markings, which really slows all this down. The CIA doesn't have that excuse, so its silence is really what is standing out, and a lot of people are discussing it. The legal view from the Anomalous Coalition is that a president can declassify nearly anything, and that the agency heads serve at the president's pleasure, so a refusal would be hard to defend. A claim from the same session points the other way. A CIA whistleblower tied it to the Director's Intelligence Group, known as DIG, a small group inside the ODNI assigned to dig into several hidden topics. So set against the file releases, it shows the push and the resistance happening at the exact same time. Underneath all of this is the funding question that keeps surfacing, whether parts of this work have run on hidden money outside normal oversight. There is a reason the legislative fight matters as much as the file drops. A release shows you a document. A law forces the records, the budgets, and the witnesses into the open, where Congress can act on them instead of taking just an agency's word. The council is what holds all of this together, supposedly. Until now, the public has mostly been handed witness accounts and recreations, which gives a scientist almost nothing to measure. A team with instruments and data specialists really changes that. It doesn't promise an answer, but at least it can provide a method. Loeb summed it up really well here. He said, keep the focus on the objects, not the noise around it. So does putting scientists in charge make you trust this more, or does it make you ask, why now?